The moment resentment sets into the equation of marriage, then everything destabilizes. When a wife is not feeling how she should feel when it comes to sexual vibrancy in marriage, she often would not want to express herself. They fail to discuss all of this during courtship. And if they fail to discuss it during courtship, it becomes a problem in marriage. When a woman is going through some discomfort in marriage, the culture is shaped in such a way that doesn't let her speak up. It is okay for the couple to say, this is what works for us. Sex thrives when there is safety. Mismatched libido is not merely about sexual incompatibility. It is about psychological erosion of intimacy. When struggles are ignored over time, then it will lead to what I said earlier, emotional distance. So when couples are unable to express what the problem is, then I'm afraid there is no solution whatsoever.
If marriage is designed by God for unity and intimacy, why do so many couples struggle in this area? Hello everyone, welcome to Wisdom for Exploit. I am your host, Bola Amore. Today we are looking at an important and often unspoken issue in marriage: why couples struggle with intimacy. From a Christian perspective, marriage is a covenant designed by God where both emotional and physical connection bring unity between husband and wife. Yet, many couples find this area difficult to navigate. Today, we are exploring the reason behind these struggles and how couples can approach intimacy with understanding, wisdom, and a desire to grow together. With me today is an amazing guest, Barrister Daniel Ugochukwu, aka the Counselor. Welcome to Talk Show, Barrister Daniel. I am delighted to host you today. How are you faring, sir?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm also super excited to be on your show today. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Today's focus is why couples struggle sexually in marriage. We are looking at an important, often unspoken issue in marriage: why couples struggles with intimacy. So, Barrister Daniel, my introduction question is: what motivated you to enter the legal profession, and what made you decide to become a barrister?
No, amazing question. Thank you so much for that brilliant and very introspective and expository question you've asked. So when I was growing up, I used to hear that these people called lawyers are the learned people. And so I became very curious about why they are regarded as the learned people. And so as time went by, I discovered that a lawyer could navigate different fields. A lawyer could be in the medical field, a lawyer could be in the maritime field, a lawyer could have all sorts of knowledge needed to, to become a better person here in this world. And so that was the primary inspiration. And then the secondary inspiration was the fact that I wasn't cool with merely studying English language. I wanted a larger or a more amplified version of English where I could fuse other form of diction like the Latin diction while expressing myself. That kind of made me entered into the legal profession, because sometimes when I'm expressing myself in English language, I could want to say something in Latin to give me that balance and that blend in my expression. These are primary and secondary motivating factors. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's fantastic. Good. So our question now is, from your experience, why do many couples struggle with intimacy even when they love each other?
This is a very brilliant question. Even when they love each other and they struggle with intimacy.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you a very clear instance of why they struggle. One of the reasons they struggle with sexual intimacy is resentment. The moment resentment sets into the equation of marriage, then everything destabilizes. There is what we call disenchantment in that marriage. The moment there is resentment. Resentment, in the simplest term, means displeasure. Displeasure, where a partner sees the other one as not enough, or as they begin to disgust one another. So that level of displeasure, which can now lead to emotional distance, would not spark the fire of sexual intimacy, because sexual intimacy thrives only when there is relaxation and safety. And once there is no safety, then they struggle, and the struggle can continue if not addressed. So I make bold to say that resentment, which can lead to emotional distance, could make couples, amongst other reasons, could make couples struggle for their sexual life.
Thank you very much. So why do people often find it difficult to talk openly about sexual issue in marriage? Because we know that, sometimes people are shy about it, and this is part of the most important thing in marriage. So why are people so shy about talking about it in marriage?
Okay, I see the question as it has two phases. So people can't openly talk about their sexual affairs. They can't openly talk about it. Now, but people can go on air and give abstract instances about sexual intimacy in marriage. It is not safe for me to come on air and tell you how my sexual life is with my wife. So people won't, it's not even morally correct for people to go on air to share their sexual struggle in their marriage. However, the dimension that talks about the fact that people also need to talk about the effectiveness and the relevance of sex in marriage is one thing that borders on culture. It borders on tradition. Because if we see a woman, let's say a wife, who comes on air to talk about sexual satisfaction and sexual intimacy in marriage, culture will label her a wild and spoiled wife. And so rather than not being labeled as a spoiled wife, she would not even wade into such discussion. So culture is one of the reasons, because particularly in this part of the world, Africa and some other Asia countries.
Well, Barrister, anyway, from the angle I'm bringing this question from is between husband and wife now. Because sometimes when they are married, they're together as a married couple. And sometimes when it comes to this sexual intimacy stuff, they don't want to discuss it. Even maybe the wife is not satisfied or the husband is not satisfied. I think it's something they need to come in agreement to talk about it. But they don't, I won't say everybody, because I won't talk for everybody. Because some people will say, okay, their husband is not satisfying them or their wife is not giving them enough. That's why they have to go outside and do something, which we know as a believer is not right. But why is it that they don't talk about it as a couple? Not necessarily going on air and talk about it, but even when they go on air, it's going to impact other people. It's going to educate other people as well.
Yes, you see, it still borders on culture and borders on perception. Now, when a wife is not feeling how she should feel when it comes to sexual vibrancy in marriage, she often would not want to express herself. Now, the reason is because it is likely that the husband would think that she is a wild woman. Now, that assumption is what kills the discussion. Assumption is cognitive laziness. So the wife assumes that if I talk to my husband about how I feel from another dimension, and the husband too feels like, and then we must also emphatically state that this is not on the general scale. This is just for some people who fear that if they express themselves, it might lead to other issues in the marriage. So they rather not talk about it and can find solace outside marriage. But that is not what should bring succor or bring solace in the marriage. What should bring about it, I think we should afford it in the course of our discussion.
So how do unrealistic expectations about sex affect couples once they are married?
That is why it is very imperative that before these people become couples, they talk about sex while in courtship. In fact, I call it due diligence.
Okay.
It is to save the marriage from eventual collapse. It is very imperative that would-be couples talk about sex. If there will be mismatched libido, which I think I might take some time to explain later in the course of the discussion. So what happens is that they fail to discuss all of this during courtship. And if they fail to discuss it during courtship, it becomes a problem in marriage.
So do you think when they discuss this at the early stage of their courtship is better than not discussing it at all? Because when we look at, I don't know about this generation now, if they do, because thank God that, because the social media is getting more broader and broader. Because when we look back in our own time, it's not something we discuss in courtship. Anyway, let me use my own example. I didn't discuss that. I don't know about other people. And I've come across some people as well, but you know what? It's just about, okay, he's my husband. God has said yes, let's move on. That's it. Until when they now get into marriage, people start noticing some different stuff. And I've seen some people as well that said, okay, now the lady didn't tell me she has this. The man didn't tell me he cannot perform. And now, because they didn't discuss that before the courtship, now they get into the marriage is a problem.
Yes. Whether it was discussed or not discussed, couples, what is standard is different from what is norm.
Okay.
Now, sometimes the culture brings about norm, but standard is what should be, what ought to be. So I recommend that that would be couples or couples that whether they are couples now or they are planning to be couples, they should. This is a very serious discussion in marriage. I think very strongly that it should be discussed before marriage. That will help them understand that this is my strength and that is also your strength. Because if it's not discussed and you bring it up in marriage, I mean, it could lead to some things such as performance anxiety, which I will talk about in the course of the discussion.
Do cultural or religious backgrounds sometimes create confusions or silence around intimacy in marriage?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It creates silence. Now, let me take a woman who is being impoverished in marriage. A woman who is being impoverished in marriage, maybe is facing one sort of abuse or the other. The family does not expect her. When I mean her family doesn't expect her to say that she doesn't want the marriage anymore. In fact, she would be the bad person. That is because of the cultural narrative. So when a woman is going through some discomfort in marriage, the culture is shaped in such a way that doesn't let her speak up because of how she might be stigmatized. At the same time, religion also play a crucial role in terms of this level of intimacy. Religion says, well, worship your husband, hey, be submissive and all of these things. It tends to control rationality. So when culture and religion control rationality, actions will be mindless. And we don't want to get to the point where actions become mindless. Because if actions become mindless in marriage, then divorce, the rate of divorce will increase. I think that culture has a greater role to play, and then religion too has a greater role to play, in the sense that the culture shapes the mind not to speak up. If you speak up, they say this is who you are. Religion also conditions your mind. All of these are psychological, and they effectively shape how the mind is programmed. In fact, it reprograms the mind. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, if we say culture reshape the mind, and the thinking of the couple, is there anything the couple can do? Because now this is our home. Yeah, we know culture there, religious is there. This is what religion will say. If I'm doing this, they say, oh, you are too spoiled. If you are doing that, they say, oh, she's a white person. But now, because I want to say, I know we're talking about why couple struggles in marriage sexually. Now we don't want them to struggle anymore. So must they still go with the, cultural instinct or the cultural background, say this is what the religion, because religious is a lot of people, you see, this religious mentality is not helping at all. Because religion will tell you, don't eat rat, don't eat dog, don't read this. You understand? But so can they just say, you know what, we are children of God, this is our marriage, we don't want to follow any religious something, we just want to do something that will make us happy. So, or is that okay? Is it okay for them to do that?
Yes, what works for you is what should be done, not what religion says and not what culture says. I like to tell people that the culture is about norm, and norms are subject to change. Let me buttress it a little bit. Now, culture, for instance, says that before you get married, or maybe on the wedding day, you need to get cake. Take, for instance, cake. Cake becomes a mindset, but it's not a standard. Now, if you don't have cake on your wedding day, the wedding would still go on. So it's about what the couple agree on. We don't want cake because we don't have money to buy cake. I'm just giving this as an instance. Yeah. Because if we let culture define us to an extent, then we won't be able to exert the actual essence of our creation. And if we are unable to exert the actual essence of our creation, then there is discrepancy, then there is problem, then there is disillusionment in marriage. So it is okay for the couple to say, this is what works for us. And what works for them is effective communication. Hey, young lady, what do you want? Hey, young man, what do you want? So they sit down and talk about it. That way, they'll be able to find a standard that works for them and not necessarily work towards norm of the society. Thank you.
That's wonderful. That's a good one. Thank you for that insightful knowledge. How does emotional connection influence physical intimacy between partners? Emotional
connection, that is a very brilliant and comprehensive question. Emotional connection. Because when we talk about emotional connection here, there are factors that galvanize or influence emotional connection. One of the effective factors that galvanize the wheel of emotional connection in marriage is communication. Communication. And when you communicate some things, it is better understood. In communication, there is one person who is speaking, and another is listening, and then there is understanding, and then there is the point where you ask a question. So effective communication can blend or galvanize the very essence of the wheel of sexual intimacy in marriage. Now, if there is no emotional connection, emotional connection is more like, both of them, there is always dopamine that is released in their heads. Dopamine cannot be released in the head if there is no emotional connection. Once there is emotional distance, then you don't expect to have sexual intimacy in marriage. But if there is emotional connection, which I was trying to talk about, the fact that one of the factors that influences emotional connection in marriage is communication. Another factor that influences emotional connection in marriage is lack of assumption. The couple must not assume that this person is this or that person is this. Rather than assume, simply communicate all of this. Because if you assume, then there can be resentment in your assumption or displeasure in your assumption. Therefore, I want to say unequivocally that emotional connection can spike. It can lead to this vibrancy of sexual intimacy in marriage. But we must take cognizance of the factors that will lead to emotional connection, such as being truthful to your partner, such as being transparent to your partner, such as expressing your expectations to your partner. All of these must not be locked up in the catacombs of emotions, because if they are locked up in the catacombs of emotions, like I said earlier, actions will be mindless in the marriage, and emotional and sexual intimacy will as well be a thing of extinction. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful, the counselor. That's good. So, what role do stress and anxiety, mental health play in sexual struggle within marriage?
Yeah, one thing about stress, let me talk about it psychologically, because stress is a very, very large word to say stress in marriage. Stress effectively leads to emotional irritability. And once there is emotional irritability in marriage between this couple, then the sexual intimacy is reduced. Is reduced because the one partner is irritated by stress.
Okay.
And why are you irritated? You are stressed out, either as a result of work, as a result of financial pressure, or as a result of different things can lead to stress. Different things. And that's why there is no emotional equilibrium. Once there is no emotional equilibrium or mental equilibrium in marriage, then we are looking at stress factor. No one perform, because I like to say very pointedly that sex thrives when there is safety, emotional safety. It also strives when there is atmosphere devoid of stress, devoid of antagonisms. And if the atmosphere is devoid, is not devoid of antagonism, then it won't thrive. It won't be productive. By every chance, it won't be productive. Therefore, stress has a long way. And it is good that this stress too is communicated. When the husband is stressed, you communicate your stress, that you name your stress. Name your stress. If your stress is a product of finance, name it. And it's expected that your partner should understand. In fact, libido is drastically reduced when you are stressed. So there is nothing you can do psychologically when stress sets in. So stress affects sexual intimacy in marriage. Now, it depends on the level of stress. Are you stressed financially? Is it as a result of work? What exactly? That's why you must name your stress. If you name it, then you can find solutions to mitigate your stress. Thank you.
Yeah, what about the anxiety parts and mental disorder?
Yeah, thank you for bringing up this anxiety. And this is where I need our audience to pay attention. Anxiety can come from internal. When I mean internal, from the marriage itself. Let me show you something quickly. You see, if you and your husband are making out or are in between the sheets, and you tell your husband that you want more, after the man is not able to do the second one, for instance. Now, there is what we call performance anxiety. Performance anxiety is a situation where the man no longer feels like he is safe with you. Because anytime he is with you, you make him feel like he is not enough, although that is not your intention. Your intentions are genuine, but anytime you express it, it leads to performance anxiety. And performance anxiety is part of the buildup of stress. It is likely that the man will even not feel anything again, because he feels that his best is not even good enough. There are solutions to all of it, because anyone who faces performance anxiety may have difficulty being productive or being active in marriage, sexually speaking.
What about if it's the other way around? What about if it's the woman being irritated with the man?
Yes. If it is the woman too who irritates the man, and the man says, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that," it leads to the same thing: performance anxiety. So the woman feels like what she's bringing to the sheets is not enough, and that is where communication comes in. That's where we must learn how to express our impression. Because if you don't express your impressions in the most potent or in the most considerable manner, it will lead to breakdown. And once it leads to breakdown, there is this displeasure. The wife feels like, well, if I go now and he says, I don't know how to do, I know Sabi. And if she is tagged that she doesn't know how to do anything when it comes to in between the sheets, it leads to stress. She doesn't even want to do it anymore with the husband because, of course, she has been tagged that she doesn't know how to perform. It is vice versa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Barrister. Okay, we're moving on. Are there biological or hormonal factors that can affect desire or performance in marriage?
Yeah, absolutely. Estrogen, for instance, now can affect it. Now, but because I'm not a medical practitioner, I'm not going to go deep into the biological aspect of things that can affect intimacy in marriage. But of course, we know that there are a lot of biological factors that can affect it. There are a lot of biological factors, a lot of medical factors that threaten the health, that threaten the woman. Now, you see, the man too may be going through a biological problem, just like the woman goes through biological problem. No man wants to go into that place and some stench, perceive some offensive smell. You know what I'm trying to talk about here. And if there is offensive smell, then that is a problem. Now, there are factors that could lead to that. In the same vein, the man goes through a series of erectile dysfunction. So you understand. So if there is erectile dysfunction, there's a biological problem already. And I think what is very crucial here is that both parties must seek medical counsel.
That's a good one. So how can differences in sexual desire between partners create tension, and how should couples handle it?
Yes, when you talk about differences here, I like to use the word mismatched libido.
Mismatched.
Now, mismatched libido is not merely about sexual incompatibility. It is about psychological erosion of intimacy. Okay. Now, anytime people talk about mismatched libido, it is not to mean sexual incompatibility. Rather, it means psychological erosion of intimacy. Once there is erosion of intimacy, now we need to get this thing straight. Once there is erosion or psychological erosion of intimacy, both couples struggle. They struggle sexually. They struggle because it leads to resentment between both of them. It leads to emotional distance between both of them. So when we are talking about, when people talk about mismatched libido, they tend to drive it to, oh, the wife is hyperactive, the husband is not, or the husband is hyperactive. No, that is even the primary definition of mismatched libido. I don't think that should be a problem. What the problem is here is psychological erosion of intimacy. There has been emotional distance. And once there is emotional distance, then that can spiral, that can lead to what will birth this mismatched libido, where the woman feels this or the man feels that, and this can be mitigated upon.
Thank you very much. We're going to communication and understanding. I know you quite mentioned that communication when we talk about the earlier questions. So we're now going to dig deep into communication now. So what are some common communication mistakes couples make when discussing intimacy?
Yes, one of the most common mistakes is listening to respond, not listening to understand. Now, because anytime any of the party wants to bring up a matter with respect to their sexual intimacy, it is likely that one party who feels dissatisfied, begins to respond rather than listen. Now, but in listening, there is always almost a solution to it. In listening, there is almost a solution to it. Now, let me give us something very, very quickly.
Okay.
In communication, the role of communication is key when it comes to sexual intimacy. The moment it is well communicated, then questions are asked. Where the couple need medical address, they have to seek medical address. But all of these cannot happen where there are assumptions. What replaces assumption is communication. And I ask everyone who is married or who is in courtship to ignite this wheel of communication. It can lead to productive relationship.
Good. I need to ask this question now. What about some couple that they got married and they've been waiting for the fruit of the womb, for example? They haven't got babies. And they think that the husband is thinking that the woman is the problem. And the woman is thinking that the husband is the problem. Yes, we know they need to seek medical advice, isn't it? For them to know what the matter is or what the issue is between them. So what if that now the man is now saying that, okay, it's the woman's problem. Let's say, for example, the woman has already lived a rough life in the past. You understand? And maybe they communicate this or he didn't communicate that, or maybe the husband had it from somewhere. And now we're talking about, you said, that is either that, okay, communication is some people do communicate to understand and communicate to respond. You understand? Now the woman or the man has done so many things in the past, or the woman has done so many things in the past, and now they're together now. Issue is coming up in the marriage. They're struggling sexually, or they can't bring children forth. So how can they communicate this properly? Even though they said, okay, the other party said want to go and seek medical advice, the other one said no, everything is okay with me. And you know what I'm trying to say, because especially men from Africa, they will think that they are all okay. They'll say everything is okay with me, nothing is wrong with me. So how do we communicate that to make it better for them?
Thank you very much. In as much as we live in 21st century, many people still are found wanting in this area. Mm-hmm. They don't even want to seek medical advice. In fact, some men would say, after all, I impregnated Amaka before. After all, I impregnated Busayo before. After all, I was with Olamide the other day, and that thing will be in the head, and it will make them not to even seek medical advice, and it will lead to conclusion that the wife is the problem. Mm-hmm. But the best thing is simple. And then sometimes too, the man's family begins to fight the woman, as if the woman has to impregnate herself. The woman doesn't have to impregnate herself. It has to come from the man. Yeah. And if something is wrong, if nothing is entering, I think it is commonsensical to seek medical counsel. It is commonsensical. So any man in this 21st century who still begins to arrogate some pride to himself and desist from medical counsel, I think that such person should be thrown back to the Stone Age, where life was brutal and of course very chaotic. I think so.
Oh my good God! Okay,
every man should embrace medical. Like I said, this is 21st century. Yeah. You don't have to say, oh, the wife is responsible, and hey, that is that. You just go, and then once medical results are there, then you are able to pinpoint what the problem is. Once you pinpoint what the problem is, I think the next step is a remedy to get out of such quagmire.
Well, that's a good one. Thank you. So we make it a little bit softer. How can couples create a safe space to talk about their needs without feeling judged or rejected?
Yeah, one of the things that they can do to create safe space, we must not undermine the significance of communication. How can they create safe space without holding anything back? I think it has to do with the foundation. The foundation. People must do their due diligence. If you don't do your due diligence, you will struggle in marriage. That's why many marriages are struggling today. So how can they create safe space? Safe spaces are not rocket science. They don't fall from the outer space. They are created. And so the husband, from the biblical perspective, has to be loving. And most women have said time without number. Most women who are rational, please. I don't mean women who are not rational. Most women who are rational have said time without number that any man, apart from the finance, any man who is able to love, you care, you ask questions, you do necessary things. Most women have said that they would never think about leaving the marriage.
That's true.
So I think we should not go back to the biblical concept. Husbands, love your wife.
Yeah.
If husbands are able to love their wives in all things that uplift humanity, when I mean love your wife in accordance with the scripture, safe space is already created. And we also have to find that these couples, or one of the couple here, did not have bitterness or emotional breakdown in their previous relationship that have been brought into the marriage. If this is done, then creating safe space becomes a difficult thing. I was speaking with someone a couple of days ago who has spent, and he is still in the marriage, 20 years plus in marriage. And he said that the wife still attacks him when she's angry. And that's because, of course, he knows the problem. He knows that the wife suffered a major heartbreak before he met her. But she hasn't healed. 20 years and on, she hasn't healed.
Wow.
There is nothing you can do at this critical point after having 3 children that can even bring about safe space, except by thorough therapy, thorough counseling, and of course, I like to say divine intervention by grace. So safe spaces are created on biblical injunction. Husbands, love your wife, submit unto your husband. That, I think, is the very bedrock of safe spaces.
What about rejection?
Oh, rejection. In what sense?
That whereby the husband just doesn't want to take on board what the wife is saying, or the wife is not ready to take on board what the husband is saying.
Then there is a fundamental problem beyond rejection. The wife doesn't just ignore, or the husband doesn't just ignore. There must be a fundamental problem that led to the husband rejecting or the wife rejecting. And that fundamental problem must be traced in order to be, well, if we don't diagnose the problem, we're crossing the surface and won't be able to deal with the issue.
Okay, Barrister, let me give an example. Let's say 2 couples, and the other couple says, okay, my husband, let's do joint accounts. The joint account is going to be for, outgoing expenses and all that, instead of us just putting hand in all the other money. And the husband just said, no, it's not possible. Because I've come across a lot of people in that situation.
Right.
You understand? Right. I said, no, they can't do that, maybe because you like to buy stuff, you like to do shopping. This one said, oh, I don't like to do shopping. And they said, no, that is rejection. And it's something that, I'm saying this now from the point of this, what I've had, that is something that can move them forward. But some people might say they don't believe in joint accounts, which is 100% okay. But even those people that say they don't believe in joint accounts, some of the husband, they don't even do what they need to do as the husband.
Okay, yeah, I understand the angle. I think what is very important here is the wife should bring her argument politely. The husband should bring his argument politely.
Okay.
And both of them should rationally weigh their arguments and find consensus. If they don't bring the arguments rationally and just talk at random, some couples talk at random. When you talk at random, you are not addressing issue. I met my husband the other day. I said, "Hello, darling, can we open a joint account?" And he said, "No." And you think you have had communication? No, you have not. And the husband says, "Hey, darling, hey, honey, can we open a joint account?" And the wife says, "No, I don't think I'm ready for it." You think you have had conversation? No, you haven't. You have to sit down and bring politely, humbly bring your argument. Honey, I think that this is why joint account is good. And can I hear your view? And when both of you have had this conversation, you are now better positioned to say no or to say yes. At the end of the day, it is not to shame anybody. It is not to reject anybody's opinion, but it is for what is good for both of them to navigate the affairs of their marriage.
Why do many men find it difficult to openly talk about sexual challenges in marriage?
I think most of them, especially with the advent of some words such as body count and blah, 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 blah. And, some men they say, maybe the wife would have met with maybe 10 to 100 people, and then it becomes almost a problem. Now, I was listening to a very sound man of God, and he was saying that to a great extent, yes, limited knowledge is safety. Now, to an extent, take for instance, the only thing you know about sex is just your husband. That's the only thing you know. Don't you think that is safety? You don't want to know any other thing. That is safety. So what brings about all of these friction and all of these dysfunctionalities and domestic desexualization? Because this thing can bring about domestic desexualization. So not knowing too much, it's a problem. Sure. So the man now feels like, well, if I talk about it, people would say, why did I carry her? Why did I make her my wife? And depending on the angle of the sex matter, some men too struggle. They struggle to perform. Once they struggle to perform, and they can't talk about it. They can't talk about it. But it can be spoken about between the couple. Yeah.
So with all this, what happens when those struggles are ignored over time in the marriage?
When struggles are ignored over time, then it will lead to what I said earlier, emotional distance. Emotional distance. You take, for instance, now, where the husband is told that you don't always exceed more than once. It creates a psychological tendency. And it begins to lead to stress called performance anxiety. So the man doesn't want to go to the wife because he is going to be talked down on. And this struggle, the moment the struggle is ignored, I'm afraid it will lead to what we call dead bedroom. Yes.
That's like another topic ago. Online dead bedroom. So, what practical steps can couple take to rebuild healthy and fulfilling intimacy relationship?
Practical steps. I like to talk about practical steps because I want to know your needs. What are your sexual needs as my wife?
Okay.
What are your sexual needs? And while I'm asking you about your sexual needs, what am I doing? We're having communication. And you're asking, what are my sexual expectations? Sexual expectations must be fully expressed. Otherwise, there will be a problem in the marriage. So practical step to reviving a dead bedroom is in communication. Don't undermine the usefulness of communication. And then don't forget, there is a place of a counselor. There's a place of therapist, if need be. There's a place of medical aspect too, if the problem is medical. And how will I know what the problem is if you have not told me? How will I know? So if you tell me that, hey, this is what I feel, and in love or politely, you'd, okay, fine, honey, let us seek medical advice. Proactive or pragmatic strategies must be adopted. And one of the prolific pragmatic strategies that must be adopted is effective communication. Many things are revealed when there is effective communication. Many things are revealed. So let this program be an awakening call for couples who no longer have communication. Let it be an awakening call. Go and ask meaningful questions. Politely find out why she frowns every time you say, let's make out. Politely find out why he dodges trying to touch you when you say, oh, hey, my husband, let us do this. Or you go to touch him and he find out, honey, have I done anything wrong? Honey, is there anything you want to tell me? And now someone would say, counselor, what if they refuse to talk? Now, you see, there is this African adage, I'll put it very plainly. Fat doesn't smell in the tummy. It is when you fart it that it smells. So I wouldn't know exactly what the issue is, except you express it to me. So when couples are unable to express what the problem is, then I'm afraid there is no solution whatsoever. Because they will continue to live in assumption. And don't forget, like I said earlier, assumption is cognitive laziness. Once they start living in assumption, then it gives birth to emotional distance. That will lead to what we call irreparable damages in marriage. Once it is now irreparable, I think they will now consult me or consult people for divorce proceeding, which can perhaps lead to further damages. People don't know. Sometimes divorce doesn't solve the problem. Divorce can even escalate the matter. It can escalate the matter depending on the degree of emotional connections that they once had. So the practical ways, let's not, we talk so much about communication, yet we don't even communicate.
That's where I'm coming at, because I'm writing a question here that even some people, you say communication, because we realize that at the beginning of some marriage, communication is effective, but when you start getting to some time, then it start declining. So why is that? And some men, anyway, you are the men, that's good, because I know I got the right guest. So some men, they'll just say, you've been saying that, you've been saying that. Let's say the woman say, oh, honey, oh, let's do this, oh, let's do that. And the man say, okay, I've heard you, no action. That's another thing.
Yes, I've heard you, no action. That is where you need consultations. Now, let us not spiritualize it. Now, you would need to maybe speak to, if the parents are alive. Now, it is preferred to first of all speak to the parents of the spouse. It is preferred because you are not taking the matter outside. Parents are still parents. No matter how old you are, parents are still parents. So it is preferred to do that first before you run to the so-called spiritual father. Yes, because that might further lead to damages in the marriage. So it is preferred sometimes. Now, but all you need to do here is that, oh, he's not talking to me. He's not telling me what the problem is. So I am confused. I'm living like a stranger in my own house. I don't even know if I'm going to wear bomb short or trouser because I don't know what he wants. It is all confusing. And you know what? Many are going through this even as we speak.
Sure. Because
the man in question is not saying anything. He's not saying anything. The woman too, maybe rarely is always the woman's problem. Rarely. We don't have women who don't communicate. They always want to talk here. So the problem is more often the man, not the woman. Because if you sit your wife down and ask your wife some question, she is likely going to answer you. Although she might blow it out of proportion, but she's definitely going to answer you. But the man might just say, why are you disturbing me? I just came back from work. Allow me to rest. So how do you fit into such marriage as a woman. There's no way to fit into such marriage but to continue to press to know what the problem is. Continue to press to know what the problem is. I think even at this critical point, seeking a therapist is not even the option. You still need to know what the problem is. And no one can say, except the husband is willing to say what the problem is.
You know, in the course of my question, when I chip in, you were saying that, okay, even divorce, a lot of people that goes through, that they say, okay, you know what, since this man is not doing what I want them to do, or the woman is not doing what I want her to do, okay, we want to go for divorce. So you mentioned that divorce is even not the answer. So how do they dig it out? Because a lot of people think that when they go for divorce, that's the best option.
Yeah, they can suffer further trauma when they go for divorce. They can so it is always recommended that they trash it. They sit at a table and discuss it openly. But what I have found is that it is often difficult for people to express themselves. And that is because of external factors. Maybe the wife is hearing news outside, or the husband is hearing some news outside. And so, whose news, this is it and that is it. You are allowing third parties. Once third parties, maybe from friends, start telling you this and telling you that, it becomes a problem to solve what the issue is ab initio. So, divorce is not always the answer. What is the answer is have a talk, genuine conversation. That is if the couples are willing to talk.
That's good. Thank you very much for that. So, do men or women view intimacy differently? And how does this difference create misunderstanding?
Yeah, definitely, men and women are not the same. And they will definitely view intimacy from different perspectives. Okay. In fact, this is a question that borders on ethical thoughts. And it's a question of subjectivity. When I mean subjectivity, it's a question of personal understanding. Because how Mr. John views intimacy is going to be different from how Mr. Andrew views intimacy. And so, if you have two men who have two different perspectives, then you know we have varieties. Therefore, but what is absolute is that both genders view it from different perspectives. And don't forget too, we have women who don't even like it to an extent. They don't even like it. They just want to find whatever you are able to do as my husband is fine. Let's have children and, it's okay. So we have different angles of thought. But your angle as my wife must be communicated to me. My angle must be communicated to you. So if two men can have two different thoughts, then how about, let alone men and women? They definitely will have different perspectives. So I can't, if I'm giving you an express answer here, then I'll be joking. Because how I view it, how I view my intimacy is different from. I was privileged to be an editor-in-chief of one media company, newspaper and magazine company before now. And I have gone through different articles where it is said, does a man prefer direct entry or foreplay kind of thing? And some men would say they don't want foreplay. Some men just want to go there and go out. Why some men would want foreplay? You see, what I want is different from what you want. In fact, I've heard some men who said that it would have been proper for women to live in a different planet and men on a different planet. So that anytime we need the woman, we just go there and shop for them and do what we have to do and take them back. These are different thoughts, different opinions, and we have to respect everybody's opinion. But what is standard is that we bring in God's injunction that the breast of your wife should be able to satisfy you, and that whatever you do must be able to satisfy. Don't deny each other, and then do it as the Lord will want you to do it. Biblical standard tends to balance all of our concerns. Biblical standard will balance all of our concerns. Because if we leave men to start talking about what they need and women to talking about what they need, we'll have different frictions here and there. But I think it is high time we started activating biblical injunctions in our marriages. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think you really round it up. I was just thinking that maybe there is one more point you want to tell us before I just do the final closing dialogue. That yeah, I know we've been talking about why couples struggle sexually in marriage. So is there any other encouragement you want to give to people out there in order to prevent struggles in their marriage as a couple?
The encouragement I would give, first of all, let me send this out to those who are yet to be married.
Okay.
Always ask meaningful questions. Questions such as, what does respect mean to you? What does disrespect mean to you? I call it precautionary measure. If you take these precautionary measures of asking meaningful questions while you are in courtship, it will mitigate whatever challenge you will face in marriage. It will mitigate it. Do you understand? It will mitigate it. Now, let's come back to marriage. Couples who are struggling. The question is, why are they struggling, and what is the bane of the matter? Is it medical struggle? Is it health struggle? Is it what? If we are able to find if we're able to itemize the struggle, then I should be able to give. Let us give advice from financial struggle, for instance, because some people are struggling financially, and because of that, they won't be able to perform. I think it should be understood by both parties. I am not able to do all of these things because I'm thinking about how to make money, and we haven't even eaten today. All of these will affect how a man will perform. And it's expected that the woman should as well understand. And so it can also affect the woman. The woman is thinking about one or two things. It's going to affect her own drive. I will go back. And if anybody had been listening to me, the person would find that the counselor had been talking about effective communication. That seems to be what can make it work. But when it is not productive, when it is no longer effective, my beloved people, I think that it will not lead to having a third party in the terms in person of the counselor to ask you people questions, or better still, seek divine intervention. For those of us who are Christians, we can pray. So I think that naming the problem, what is your struggle, woman? Let me know your struggle. Let me know your struggle. When you want to serve me food, you frown. When I touch you and kiss you and make you feel, excited before we do what we have to, you frown. What is the struggle? Can you talk to me about it? Have you eaten yam outside and now you feel like the banana at home is small? What is the problem? Vice versa. So my advice to couples who are struggling is to sit down and ask each other meaningful questions. That will lead you to understand whether they have health issues or other issues that will need special address. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Barrister. Or maybe the husband forgot the wife.
Some of the things. Now, when the husband forgets the birthday, I think it is just about, that is where communication comes in. It is not good for him to forget. Let's not even try to make it look but we should also understand that maybe it is natural that he too does not remember his own.
No, women always remember.
The man doesn't remember his own.
Okay, his own. Oh,
and so if he doesn't remember his own, and you see, you should understand the husband that you have married. And we shouldn't even make mountain out of a molehill. If I forget your birthday, why do you let it get to the next day? You could have told me even today that your birthday is tomorrow. What's the difficulty there? What's the difficulty in? No. We make things difficult every time.
Men, you should remember. Men should be remembering. You should remember your wedding anniversary, your own birthday, your children's birthday. In fact, I was asking somebody, was it not last year? And I was asking that, what year is your daughter? He said, he was giving me two different. I said, you see, men, that is meant for you anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is meant for you. Men doesn't really like to put all those days. They say that is not important.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, our audience, marriage intimacy goes beyond performance. focusing on understanding, connections, and communication. We both partners commit to learning and personal growth. Their relationship challenges. When both partners commit to learning and personal growth, their relationship challenges aspects can foster a stronger bond. Thank you for joining us on Wisdom for Exploits. Let's continue to seek wisdom for building stronger and healthier relationships. So to Barrister Daniel, thank you so much for honoring this call. And thank you so much for all the insightful knowledge you shared. Thank you so much. And that is that from us, all our viewers. God bless you all.
You're welcome. God bless you. Thank you for having me today.